The American automotive sector, one of the country's foundational industries, has boomed in the last decade. Profits at the big three auto companies, GM, Ford and Stellantis, skyrocketed 92%. CEO pay at the big three firms jumped 40%. But auto workers didn't share in the fortunes. Concessions made after the 2008 auto industry crisis were never reinstated, and workers saw their average real hourly earnings fall almost 20% since 2008. That's why, for the first time ever, the United Automobile Workers Union authorized targeted strikes. After 6 intense weeks of negotiations, their actions are now starting to bear fruit. Ford was the first to reach a tentative agreement with the union, followed by Chrysler parent Stellantis. This week, General Motors also reached a deal with the union after contentious talks, which saw a third of the union's workers go on strike after the sides failed to reach an agreement in September. So what do the pacts include? Firstly, a 25% pay increase over the term of the agreement. The various benefits will raise the top wage to more than $42 an hour. The deals also reinstate cost of living adjustments, reduce an 8-year path to top wages to 3 years, and allows the right to strike over plant closures. The strikes have collectively cost GM, Ford and Stellantis billions of dollars in lost production. Ford says the union's strike has cost it $1.3 billion, and the deal, if ratified by members, would increase labour costs by roughly $850 to $900 per vehicle produced. And this may not be the end, as workers' talks are about more than just pay. As the automotive sector gears up to the big electric vehicle transition, workers are trying to defend their jobs. That's because manufacturing is slowly shifting from internal combustion engines to batteries, and cars built with fewer parts will also require fewer workers. Well, for more on this, let's bring in Patrick Anderson, the Principal and CEO at Anderson Economic Group. He joins us now from East Lansing, Michigan. Good to have you with us, Patrick. A huge breakthrough for the three big automakers in the United States. This comes after almost 7 weeks of strike action by the main union there. What's your initial reaction to these tentative deals that have been struck? Are they good for workers and the companies?
This was a stunning victory for the UAW here. The UAW achieved all of their goals: big wage increases, improvements in their work rules, essentially won everything they asked for. They dominated the debate, and as you discussed it yourself, there was a lot of public support for wage increases, given the fact that we've had such inflation in the United States. Not nearly the inflation that other countries have had, such as Turkey, but for the United States, fairly high inflation. So it's definitely a big victory for the unionized auto workers.
It's easy to forget, isn't it, that back in 2008, during the global financial crisis, it was, in fact, the American government that essentially bailed out these automakers in the United States. And the union was saying that since then, profits have boomed at the big three, yet it was the workers in the plants that really didn't receive a share of these profits. Do you think that was a fair argument on the union's part, that really their workers should be sharing in the successes of these big three automakers?
Definitely, it was a strong argument that both inflation should have resulted in higher wages for the auto workers and that they should share in the success. Although I will say they have shared in the success. Some of the rhetoric that was used by the UAW here was very unfortunate. In some cases, they called the automakers the enemy. The topics that you discussed, for example, many auto workers got a $10,000 bonus last year and a similar one the year before, and they got wage increases. So they obviously won a big victory here. It is going to be costly for the automakers, but it's not the case that auto workers didn't receive wage increases, or that there was no benefits over the past decade. There was plenty of benefits. Arguably not enough to the auto workers, but that's again why we had a strike.
I mentioned earlier that Ford had said that as a result of the deal that it struck with the union, that essentially up to $900 per vehicle produced would be added to the existing cost of making such a vehicle. Is that ultimately going to be passed on to the consumer, do you think?
Absolutely. I mean, there's no two ways around it. It's a competitive market. In the United States alone, we have 10 or 12 automakers, some building in the United States, some building in Korea, some building in Japan, some building parts in China, some building in Europe. And as you may be aware, there's a substantial number of Turkish auto suppliers that produce parts that are used in American automobiles. So these cars are built by many competitors. And the fact that GM, Ford, and Chrysler are paying big wage increases is going to mean the price of their cars are going to go up. I also think prices of cars will go up. For example, at Toyota, which didn't wait very long before they also gave a 9% wage increase to their workers here in the United States.